if your life were a balance sheet, how would you divide 100% across these areas?
Balance is hard to attain anyways, but it's really finding the harmony between all these different aspects that you were talking about.
Finding the balances is something that you actively have to pursue, and it's something that you actually put effort in.
It's a very internal exercise where you reflect on what's important to you. And when you know solidly and you're focused on what is really, really important to you, everything will flow from there.
Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by someone who has mastered the art of juggling big ambitions with personal growth and meaningful impact. Dina El Mofty is the founder of INJAZ Egypt, which has empowered nearly 1 million young people to embrace entrepreneurship. She's also the co-founder of Soulful Egypt's largest celebration of health and wellness. And she runs Mystics Travel, where she organizes transformational retreats. Dina, welcome. It's such an honor to have you kick off the balance sheet.
Oh, thank you, Engy. The honor is mine. Thank you for this lovely invitation.
Thank you. It's so good to see you. And I'm so glad that we're finally getting to meet. I've read so much about you. Like, I was already familiar with your work. But as I read more and more, I was like, okay, that is the epitome of like a successful but extremely busy woman. Like, it's insane the amount of things that you do, honestly. And I was very impressed by that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, so first of all, before we dive right in, like, can you just tell me a little bit about the work that you do for our viewers who are not aware?
Yeah, so when I first graduated from college, let me go way back.
Let's go way back. All right.
Not that far.
Not that far.
But anyways, when I first graduated, I knew that I wanted to do something that had a purpose and a passion and that I would be passionate about and that would have an impact.
Yeah.
I didn't know quite what that was yet, but I had so much drive, so much ambition, and I got the chance to pilot at the time a program called INJAZ, which would work on spreading a culture of entrepreneurship, work readiness skills, and financial literacy. And at the time, it was a very small project I was working on. And with time, it became an organization. And with time, we'd spread all these programs into schools and universities, and really had an impact on the young generation coming up, where entrepreneurship wasn't a big thing back then. It was. It's still, we had the routine of, the cultural mindset of wanting kids to become an engineer or a doctor and explore these professions or work for multinationals. And entrepreneurship was, seen as very much a risk-taking endeavor that a lot of families didn't want their kids maybe to venture into so much. And it was just amazing to see with time how that transformed and how the cultural mindset transformed. I learned a lot from that journey, and it was a juggle and a struggle at many times, because I also had a young family, and my kids at the time, were very young. I got married very young and had my kids very young, and so it was a continuous juggle, trying to somehow figure out what the way, and there was no right way. You just have to, it comes along as you go along. You find the right balance according to what you prioritize and value in life.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
Well, you mentioned that it was a roller coaster.
Yes.
So I want to talk about that roller coaster. How did that go? Because I feel like when you have so much to juggle, it becomes very difficult and it gets to be very overwhelming to try and be perfect at every single thing that you do. But I also feel like being perfect is sort of unattainable. You're setting yourself up for failure in a way.
100%.
But how do you get close? Like, let's talk about each aspect. And this is where we introduce the concept of the show. It's very simple. So basically, I'm going to ask you, if your life were a balance sheet, how would you divide 100% across these areas? So the areas are work, which we've talked a little bit about, family, personal growth, self-care, and social life. where are you putting the most energy into each and every one of these things, and where might there be a gap? So let's set a percentage roughly for each one of them.
Yes. So, of course, like setting a rigid percentage is very difficult to do just because if we're going to talk about any kind of balance is hard to attain anyways, but it's really finding the harmony between all these different aspects that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And really it's about fluidity and constant change. So it's continuously shifting based on what's happening at this moment, at this phase in life. At this given time, let's say it was like between work and family and like the other categories, self-care, like let's say put it at 30%.
Okay. So that's 30%
yes,
for work, 30% for...
Yes. So relatively
Yeah.
even. And the rest would be the social and the personal growth. Of course, this wasn't the case, in the past.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like with work and family specifically, it's very hard to balance between those two things.
Yes.
Like everything else just sort of get pushed into hindsight. And then the two the biggest two things in your life to focus on are family and work, and it feels like those two things sometimes clash. How do you harmonize the two? So you say that it was like difficult managing that, but could you tell me like a story where, let's say it was like hard to harmonize the two, or it was hard to like make the two meet?
Like so many, like just the simplest thing, for example, the simplest example would be, let's say if I had a very important meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. And my daughter had a high fever tonight. My daughter has a high fever, she's sick, and I've been up with her all night, and she's not well, and this is a very important meeting that I have to go to and be at 9 a.m. and I can't cancel it, and I'm in this situation, for example. This happened many times, and a lot of other stories far more extreme, but I'm just giving you like a simple example. And so everything would come at the expense of, let's say, sacrifice sleep. I'd have to make sure I get up in the morning, and maybe my mom would come to sit with her so I could go to that hour, that important meeting for an hour, and then come back. And so it was always finding a way to find solutions for serious challenges that I was facing between my kids, and it was always a lot of guilt that I had to leave her and go and attend this meeting and then leave, and then thank God for, of course, my support system, like my mom and my husband were very hands-on as well, and having a very supportive team, and my partner at work as well. Like it was all it all somehow worked itself out within the challenges, just because I was lucky to have support around me.
Yeah.
And I think that was a huge blessing, something that I'm very grateful for, because really it allowed me to be able to do what I did. There has to be a balance, and it can't be rigid, and these things are fluid and ever-changing, and of course we're as passionate about our work as we care for our families, and that things have to be designed differently.
Yeah.
And there's no wrong way or right way of doing things. It's just the way that it works for you. So make it work for you and design it accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, being a woman in the business field is on its own a challenge, because I feel like maybe we've reached a point where there's a better general understanding of what women's circumstances look like and how much they're responsible for, like having a family and also being so successful at the same time is a lot, but we can multitask. Like, I don't think there was this general perception that women are able to do this. It was either work or family. It couldn't be both.
Yeah.
But I think with some adjustments, like you said, when we have a system that accommodates for these circumstances, it becomes a little bit easier for women to
Yes.
navigate this field.
100%.
And it's so amazing that you were able to foster that environment, because I think that's like very important, and we're sort of seeing a little bit more of this today.
And isn't it interesting to see how things like the workplace, how things are shifting and changing?
Yeah.
The more and more influx of women you see taking on leadership roles in businesses and in their companies, you see the culture changing, because it's not just one way, one rigid way of doing it, you know? And so women are coming in with a new way and a new perspective of you're able to get things done, you're able to be successful, and you're able to do it in a way that accommodates your lifestyle and accommodates your responsibilities and your priorities to your family.
Where are you in all of this? Like, you take care of your family, you work day and night, you've achieved so much, you're so successful, but when do you take the time for yourself to just sit down and relax and just take a breather?
Yeah.
How do you do that? When do you even have the time to do that? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, so I didn't. When I was first starting my business and starting my family, absolutely that concept wasn't even on the periphery of my mind even, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what that was. And it was just like bulldozing through, being able to, do the things that my kids need me to do for them, and what my family needs me to do for them, and that my work needs me to do. And it was like bulldozing through, that of course came at the expense of my health, my mental well-being, all of that. You know, it wasn't even recognized as this is a thing that I have to give attention to. So physically, mentally, emotionally, I was drained, but it was like I was on a mission, and like I had targets, goals that had to be achieved, and powering through all the time. Like, looking back, I don't even know how I did that, but of course it came at the expense of many things, and I could have been at the borderline of burnout, of complete internal collapse. And so I managed to catch myself before it reached that point. And it was really, again, it came to the point of observing and being aware of the state that you're in. And early on, I was really focused on learning and learning new things, exposing myself to new things, exposing myself to what is the latest on leadership skills, and how to better myself as a leader, and how to better myself as a mother, and how to better myself as a person. So all along, while this bulldozing was happening and I'm like powering through, I was also trying to learn, like, how have other people done that? How have other people taken care of themselves as they had so much responsibilities on their shoulder and they were powering through? How were you able to become a better leader, a better mother, a better person as an individual yourself? And so I was exposed to a lot of things that I read, and a lot of things that I actually attended. So I'd go to all these retreats and seminars abroad, and was learning from all these amazing thought leaders who were like cutting edge of the game, whether it's in business, whether it's in personal growth, whether it's in development. And so I was just absorbing how they did it, and just learning more about, okay, so taking care of yourself is a thing. Oh, I didn't realize, and they really opened my eyes to this whole other world. You can do both. You don't have to just power through and be the martyr, sacrificing, you can also, it's important, and I want to say, not only important, it's detrimental to yourself to take care of yourself. Because if you're not giving yourself and taking care of your mental state, your emotional state, what good are you to anyone? What good are you to your business? What good are you to your family? at the end of the day,
you can't really pour from an empty cup.
exactly. You
Like
can't pour
if
from an
you,
empty
yeah, if you keep like exposing yourself to negative things, if you keep yourself in this anxious bubble all the time,
Exactly, yeah.
constantly being
Stress,
overwhelmed, you
exactly.
can't really give 100% into anything. So I want to ask you about, because you've mentioned hobbies, you've mentioned learning new things. We all have that drive within us where we're passionate about something, there's something that we love to do, but when life gets so busy, that is the easiest thing to get pushed aside. I feel like we have time for everything in the world now except learning new things. That is something that is very, I would assume like it's very time consuming. So I want to ask you, when it comes to hobbies, learning, like what percentage would you give to that? And if you can tell me why you gave it that percentage, and how do you go about even like learning new things and maintaining your hobbies?
Yes, thank you for that question. So important. So first of all, we need to realize that, you know, even for our own personal growth and our brain, the growth of, let's say, our mindset, continuous personal growth, we have to understand that the brain forms new synaptic connections every time we learn something new.
Yeah.
So it's already that you're like upgrading your capacity every time you're learning something new, whatever it is, and exposing yourself. So now we come to how to do it. So how to do it, it's really about carving out the time, and again, going back to designing your own schedule and the things you prioritize and the things that you value. So taking it down a notch in terms of logistics, how do we do this? So let's say you've started out the year and you've prioritized certain things for yourself. I want to focus on my hobbies. I want to work out. I want to learn new things. And so it's designing your calendar in a way to integrate these things. The other thing is the learning. So where would you find time for learning? So a lot of times you're driving in the car, right? Instead of listening to music, put on a podcast. Turn on a podcast that you're passionate about, that you love, about an interest of yours, and listen to it on the drive home or on the drive to work. That way, you're exposing yourself to something new. It hasn't taken you out of your schedule, but you've plugged it in. And another way to plug it in, let's say you're in your workout or you're going for a walk. Again, exposing yourself to a certain, whether it's a podcast or a YouTube video or something that's around your interest area, like designing it in a way that suits your lifestyle, where you're not completely getting out of your regular habits or your regular routine, but you're finding time to plug it in. So I think it's always about also being creative and how to do things, and also just working around the things that you value most, and you make them happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You commit to it. I'm committed to this. I'm setting an alarm for this hobby, this workout, this activity, and I'm gonna feel really bad about myself if I don't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's discipline for you. You have to hold yourself accountable in a way.
You have to hold yourself accountable. It's discipline on the long run, and give yourself, you know, some rewards along the way.
Love that. Well, okay, so you've said a lot of things that I personally find very valuable. Like, as someone who has struggled with balance for a very long time, I think a lot of what you're saying right now resonates so much with me, and I believe for sure to our viewers as well. So I want to ask you as well, looking ahead, if you could rewrite your balance sheet 5 years from now, what would it look like? And are there any areas that like you'd want to shift focus to or maybe pull back from?
So how I see it, and is that I'd love to have more of an equal balance between all aspects. It was very interesting. They did a study on a group of, Harvard did the study on a group of 65-year-olds who had just, you know, were at the end of their careers and reflecting on life. And a lot of the feedback that came on things that they regretted in their lives were, you know, someone said, I wish I hadn't worked so hard as I did. Someone else said, I wish I had spent more time with family. Someone else had said, you know, I wish I spent more time with friends. And it was a very interesting study because it gives you so much perspective on people, you know, at the end of their careers or whatever, what they reflect on. And it's very insightful, because at the end of the day, tomorrow's promised to no one.
Yeah.
And it really will give us this sense of appreciating every day and every moment, and finding joy in every day and every moment, and the little things and the big things. And it's important to keep that as a perspective. When we're talking about all these different categories, whether your work, your family, self-care, personal growth, social life, like, it's really, I know it's difficult in different phases of our lives to try to harmonize between each thing, but I think keeping perspective daily and having gratitude daily for, and it's very hard sometimes to step back from this when you're in a complete, whirlwind of challenges and things like that on a daily basis in life and in your personal life and your professional life. But I think this hits home a lot in its importance, that on a daily basis we have to step back and just tune in again to what we value most, what we prioritize most, and be grateful for what we have, because time is fleeting and we need to really be aware of it on a daily basis. And I think that helps put everything for us in perspective, because we immediately will zone in and zero in on what we value, what we prioritize, and have that as our focus. And so everything will design itself around it, in a sense.
We've reached my favorite part of the show, which is, I will ask you, like, if you had to sum up your life's current net worth, not in financial terms, but like in happiness, fulfillment, relationships, like, how would you describe it?
Yeah, of course, if we, like, at the end of the day, things aren't measured by what you've accumulated in life, It's things are measured by the people that you've touched, the people whose lives maybe you've uplifted, what you've learned along the way, how you've dealt with challenges and grown from them and became more resilient, how you've really made an impact, big or small, in anyone around you. You know what I mean? And so it's all about the joy in the little moments, finding the magic in different experiences. It's really about doing the things that make you happy and bring you joy and elevate you. And it's in all these little things. It's really about the things you valued. And if you come out of this with even having created a small ripple of positive change around you, that's really what matters the most at the end of the day.
If you had to give some advice to a lot of people who are probably struggling to find their own balance, what's the first step that you think they should take?
Okay, so I would say, I would really advise anyone to really step back, take a moment, step back, and set your own priorities for yourself, and reflect on what's important to you, what do you value, and accordingly, where will you spend and focus your time and your energy. The other thing I would say is set boundaries. It's okay to say no, and I know a lot of us girls, we don't like to say no, and we're shy to say no, but really, if we don't, we'll just be drained and overextend ourselves. The third thing that I would say is definitely prioritize always our self-care and well-being, because without that, we won't be any good for our business or our personal life. We won't have any energy left. So always prioritize self-care without guilt. Because it's not something to be guilty about. And I think this is a cultural mindset that needs to shift, because you can't pour from an empty cup, like we said before. And so keeping that in mind, you need to integrate that into your life as a lifestyle, as a habit. And the other thing I would say is quality over quantity. And it's really about being present in anything that you're doing. So let's say whichever thing you're in your personal life and your business life, focus, be present 100% in what you're doing now. You know, it's not like distraction. Now we're in a world of distractions, and the phone can take us, and like we get messages and we get, you know, distracted by social media and by a million things. Learn to be present in whatever it is that you're doing, and you know, be aware of the distractions that can take you, and so spend time in the moment, being present.
I think what we can take away from all of this is finding the balances is something that you actively have to pursue, and it's something that you actually put effort in, because planning, putting boundaries, having the power to say no, and being present in like the present moment, these are all things that you have to put active effort into, and then it all flows from there. It's just not something that magically happens, but when you put in the work, it does.
Yes, and it really comes from within. So it's a very internal exercise where you reflect on what's important to you, and when you know solidly and you're focused on what is really, really important to you, everything will flow from there. So it's almost an internal exercise that you have to do at the beginning, and everything will you know, flow from there.
Amazing note to end on. Thank you so much, Dina, for this.
Thank you.
I'm sure so many people have walked away with like feeling inspired, and myself included. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for this lovely invitation, and congratulations on the new podcast. Super exciting.
Thank you so much.
And loving the topic.
Thank you. You've made it interesting with all of your insights. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure. Thank you.
The pleasure's all mine.